I want to welcome everybody to our Business Solutions webinar series. My name is Diana Lum. I'm with the Greater Issaquah Chamber of Commerce, and we have a great topic today. We're very excited to have Jen Davis-Hayes with the City of Issaquah and Perry England from MacDonald-Miller here to talk about the newly launched Building Incentives Program. So we're going to get started really quickly here, but before I do formal introductions, I want to remind the audience that our webinar series is open to all businesses and gives an accessible platform for topics and information that support your business, businesses in our community. These webinars are brought to you at no cost because of our partnership with our major investors in the area. We call them our Chairman Circle members. I want to give them a little bit of a shout out today. They are Puget Sound Energy, Recology Cleanscapes, Costco, Providence Swedish, Raleigh Properties, Evergreen Ford, Lincoln and Chevrolet, Virginia Mason Franciscan Health, and Overlake Medical Center. Their support allows us to bring these types of programs to our businesses in the region, and we thank them for this support. So let's get started. I'm going to introduce our presenters today. We have Perry England with us today. He is Vice President of Building Performance at MacDonald-Miller Facility Solutions, where he helps building owners make efficiency and decarbonization investments that pay for themselves. He's a passionate leader for our state's environment and for the right of every individual to find a meaningful path to economic security. He currently serves as president of the Northwest Energy Efficiency Council and is past chair of Washington's Workforce Training and Education Coordinating Board. Perry is also an active contributor and member of the Smart Building Center Board of Directors. Perry, I don't know where you find all your time, but congratulations on all the effort that you put back into the community.
Thank you.
We also have Jen Davis-Hayes with us. Jen has joined us before. She is the Economic Development Manager with the City of Issaquah. She has worked with the city for over 9 years, and we thank her for that service. Jen has a master's in public administration from the University of Washington and a Bachelor of Science degree in finance and political science. She says that I snagged some of this from her LinkedIn account. She says she's passionate. Her passion is to improve the status quo and take things to the next level. She does this through her connections with the businesses and the services that help their success, and by tackling any process with strategic thinking and creative problem solving. She also shares that she is inspired by service, and that is very evident by the service that she's given to our community, and has found that her professional and volunteer experiences have impacted her life greatly and expanded her horizons. So thank you again, Perry and Jen, for being here, and I'm now going to turn it over to you.
All right,
Great.
Jen, I will share our slide deck.
Thank you so much, Diana. We really appreciate that kind introduction. I forgot what I wrote on LinkedIn, and I learned a little bit about Perry as well. So I want to thank everybody who is watching this webinar now live or on the recording. It's a really cool program, I will say. And so again, my name is Jen Davis-Hayes. I'm the Economic Development Manager with the city, and I work very closely with Stacy Van McKinstry, who is our city's Sustainability Manager. Our partnership shows the opportunities for businesses to benefit from sustainability efforts in Issaquah. So if you want to go to the first slide, you're going to hear more about one of the programs that Stacy has implemented from the Issaquah Climate Action Plan. It's called ICAP for short. As you may know, reducing our greenhouse gas emissions is an important aspect of addressing climate change. Did you know that the electricity and gas to power our homes and commercial buildings contributes over 60% of our community-wide greenhouse gas emissions? I didn't know that before this plan. So that's why we created the Clean Building Incentive Program to help commercial building owners make upgrades with the help of our consultant, MacDonald-Miller, and potentially you can access a grant from the state to do so. So right here on these slides talks about some of the more information in our Issaquah Clean Action Plan, again, ICAP for short, and we will be sure to provide that link to the chamber. You can also find that on our city's webpage. So I invite you today to connect with the city to learn more how you can help us on this journey of a more sustainable future by getting involved in the implementation of any of these items here for the climate action plan. But most importantly, we're going to talk now. Perry England is going to share with you the details of the Clean Buildings Initiative program and how you can access these free services.
Thank you, Jen. As Jen said, this is really a really high level overview of a very complex piece of legislation that was enacted by our state legislators back in 2019, and fully all the rulemaking and everything basically was published in late 2020, early 21, far as setting the stage on timing and where. Basically answering the question, where did this come from? Essentially, it's been something that's been in the works and been published for over 2 years now. And it's been great to be part of the Issaquah team and helping building owners that are covered by the Clean Buildings Performance Standard legislation get into compliance with the legislation. So from an introductory standpoint, I just wanted to just kind of briefly go through how we structured the organization of material here. First, we need to understand what the law is and why, and basically answer the question, why care? And so that's going to be handled in the overview portion. From there, you'll start learning some new terms. This session, because of the time constraints, isn't going to be getting into the nitty-gritty details of what all these different steps are contain, but it will give you some understanding of what the law is requiring of building owners that are covered by the legislation. And that gets into part 2, which is the benchmarking process. And then we move in. So the outcomes of that benchmarking exercise leads to further action. And we'll discuss in brief what that is. And then finally, what's the final step in making sure that you're doing everything you can as a building owner to be in compliance with the legislation. So really just a 4-part high-level overview of the law and the path to compliance. So with the overview, essentially, as I stated earlier, this was law that was passed in 2019. And in essence, it establishes, it's one of the nation's first law that really is as prescriptive as it is, that establishes energy performance standards for commercial buildings. As you see in the mandatory compliance dates, there are certain timelines of compliance. The larger buildings in the state that are defined as buildings greater than 220,000 gross square feet, they're the earliest compliance date of June of 2026. From there, there's a middle-sized group of buildings from 90 to 220,000 square feet. That date is of 27, and then subsequently the smaller of the buildings, 50 to 90,000 square feet. That is the reporting compliance date is June of 2028. Seems like those dates are out there in the distance, but however, when you start thinking about all the steps that have to take place prior to those dates, time is of the essence. And you'll see momentarily that for buildings that need to have some work done on them, you need to have that work completed by December of 2024, which is only 2 years away, less than 2 years away. So I emphasize the fact that time is of the essence. Late last year, or in 2021, the legislators passed additional legislation that expanded the scope of the legislation to include what they defined as Tier 2 buildings, which goes all the way down to 20,000 gross square feet. So it's a big population of buildings by numbers, but those and there's some requirements that we'll talk briefly about that really are reporting requirements that are due in July of 2027. But the actual compliance criteria has not been quite established yet, and that happens in the next 2 years. The other portions of the law, so that's a kind of what's my deadline. So that's the answer to that question. The other piece is that the law does build in basically some incentives for early adopters, those that want to take early action. It's known as the early adopter incentive, that want to take early action and are the furthest away from their defined energy targets. And that's the early adopter incentive on the far right here. And then it also includes, the law also includes a penalty if you take no action or if you don't act timely enough prior to your compliance date. And so there's a compliance penalty as well built into the law. Later this year in mid-year in June, there is an option for those that meet all the criteria and want to get the paperwork completed and submit it to Commerce, who's the authority having jurisdiction. That portal opens up back in June of this year. And then currently the early adopter incentive application process is open for those that qualify for that incentive. So moving forward, one of the key starting point, the first place to start is benchmarking. It may be new for many of you out there. And what does that mean? The law basically establishes energy use intensities for over 300 different types of buildings, space uses, that is, that have been identified in commercial office buildings greater than 20,000 square feet. What energy use intensity is, it's very similar to your golf score. For those that play golf, basically you want your score to be as low as possible. And in essence, it takes basically your total consumption of energy at the building and divides it by your gross square footage. And gross square footage is a defined term. It may be a little bit different than as a property manager, how BOMA and defines square footages for buildings. So it's not net rentable, it is gross square footage. So outside to outside of your building times the height. So that's a gross square footage. That equation basically calculates consumption over gross square footage, your energy use intensity, which is your energy use intensity per BTU per square foot per year, so on an annualized basis. So that's basically as technical as this presentation is going to get, but it's critically important for you to understand what an energy use intensity is, because you'll hear that throughout the rest of this presentation, and also as we move forward together as participants in the Issaquah program. The other piece is how does Commerce, the authority having jurisdiction, make sure everyone is using reporting the same way to them. And essentially that tool is known as the Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So it is a federally recognized tool that's been around for over a couple of decades and available at no cost. And so that is basically the repository for all energy use intensities for buildings that are covered by the legislation. Not to bore you with a lot of technical details, but the law basically publishes EUI energy use intensity targets. So based on your space allocation in your building, we will calculate basically what your energy use target is, and then compare it to what your current energy use intensity is. So it basically is a comparison between what the state says you need to be performing at versus what you're performing at. And that's basically the benchmarking exercise. As a participant of the Issaquah program, we essentially deliver you at no cost, basically a benchmarking report that serves as basically your, here's where your building sits as it relates to the published energy use intensity targets. And then now a decision is made. We have what we need. So either you're going to be above your energy use intensity target, which is not good, like a handicap or like a golf score. You want your score to be as low as possible. But if you're above, then it requires a certain next set of steps. But if you're below, there's also additional steps, but not as significant from a financial standpoint as if you are above the target. So on those situations where you're above the target, what the city has provided is a finite amount of funds to enable us as their consultant to help identify what bundles of work inside your building need to get accomplished in order to get you down below your energy use intensity target. And so that's what we commonly refer to as a preliminary scoping assessment, and that is part of the services that are offered through the Issaquah program. In addition to just providing you that level of guidance and planning, we also identify all available Puget Sound Energy PSE incentives and early adopter incentives that are associated with the state clean buildings program. And now on to the final step, which is item 4 here, is document compliance. You're not over with. Once you get your building below your energy use target, it's now about filling out the paperwork and documenting everything that is happening inside the building. The key forms here are Form A, B, and C. In subsequent seminars and webinars that we've got scheduled with the city, we'll be going into very much more detailed here, but I just wanted to let you know, those that are watching this video, that just because you're below your target doesn't mean you're done. Is that there's another significant amount of work in the form of the compliance forms here, these 3 forms for sure. And there are some subsequent additional forms if warranted that need to be used, but for the most part, forms A, B, and C have to be completed, which also dictate a considerable amount of time and requires your planning. So this is basically in summary. So this is close to the end of the presentation. We've covered essentially all 4 of these steps. These first 4 here, the benchmarking, comparing your benchmark score to your actual assigned energy use intensity target. What happens if you're above your energy use target? You go through a scoping assessment exercise, and then you get in basically start filling out forms A, B, and C in order to meet your compliance deadline. For those larger buildings, 220,000 square feet and above, you can see here that your compliance date is June of 26, as stated previously. However, you need to give yourself enough runway in order to make sure you have 12 continuous months of validated performance. 12 continuous months. So back up from that June date, 12 months, give yourself an extra 6 months is our recommendation to tune things, make sure that you're ready to meet all 12 months of consecutive performance. And so we're saying that by the end of December of 24, for the larger buildings, you should have all your work done, and the building should be dialed in and ready to fill out the forms A, B, and C prior to the June deadline. So that's in essence the summary. That's what the law is, and this is basically our way of trying to help building owners that are covered by the legislation get in, make it as fun and easy to get in to be in compliant with the legislation, because the city really needs all building owners in Issaquah to participate in this program in order for the city to achieve their climate action plans, as Jen previously stated. So with that, Jen and I will take questions if there are any, and then I have a next slide is going to be just how to become a participant in the program as well. So I can share that once we get through with the questions.
So Perry, I'm not seeing any questions come through. I think like probably many businesses, building owners, they're probably kind of absorbing what you have to share. It's been laid out very, very well and very clear. So we appreciate that. If you want to go ahead and go to your next slide,
sure.
That would be fine.
Yeah. So here's the call to action. We're going to take care of all the heavy lifting for you. The city the city council has generously set aside some funds to be able to make this as fun and easy as possible for all of you. So For us to be able to help you, you need to help us by enrolling in the program. So one of the benefits, so when you enroll in the program, we're going to take you through this benchmarking exercise that I've shared with you. And we're actually going to be there with you all the way to the finish line. And then to be able to support any of the work that's required in order to successfully complete forms A, B, and C prior to your compliance date. So that's our commitment. That's the city's commitment. And they have set a limited amount of funds aside to be able to help us help you get there. The other cool thing, believe it or not, and I think it's been received very favorably thus far, is being recognized as a Clean Building Ambassadors program for the city of Issaquah. So the city of Issaquah is prepared to help promote, if you will, your advocacy towards the client and your willingness to be an early adopter and to enroll in this program and to lead by an example as far as being mindful of your energy intensity of your building, energy use intensity of your building, and doing what's necessary in order to be in compliance. So great recognition. The city's 100% behind this. So are we, and that's one of the perks at becoming an early participant in the program. So how do you apply? So here you go. Get your phones out, take a snapshot of the QR code down here in the far right-hand corner. It'll take you right to the landing page. Simple word, fill in your name, and essentially say City of Issaquah Clean Buildings Incentive Program, and we'll have a phone call to you probably within 24 hours, if not sooner. And so it's as simple as possible to enroll as a participant, and that's the only way we're going to really be able to help you. And then I think Jen would probably not be happy if I didn't mention this. There is a finite amount of funds that have been set aside, so we have to be mindful of first come, first serve type of concierge service. And so I just want to bring that to everyone's attention. So don't procrastinate too long. If you got a phone next to you, just go ahead and click on it and put your name in there and contact information, and we'll be that's all it takes. It takes less than 3 minutes.
Excellent.
There you go. And then for additional more detailed deep dive of the standard and the compliance process, please join us on March 28th at 2 p.m. The city will be sending out notifications, and I assume the chamber will as well, as far as enrolling in the March 28th webinar. So we look forward to having you all present at that opportunity as well.
Okay, Perry, thank you so much. Absolutely, we'll make sure that we're pushing out this March 28th date, the webinar, again, a more in-depth look at this program and the requirements out to the business community as well. Jen, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, thank you, Diana. I think, again, thank you, Perry. This is such a great program, and that's one of the reasons why we in economic development are partnering with our friends in sustainability and MacDonald-Miller to really get this out to building owners. As he mentioned, we want to promote you and the things that you're doing, and that's really important for us here at the city to ensure that you get the kudos for taking these important steps. This is something that the state's going to require you to do. If you do it early, you get to save money, and we're paying you to help you do that. So that's a pretty nice deal. So we're hoping that you're all able to take advantage of this opportunity and really put Issaquah on the map as somebody who's making a difference. So thank you very much for having us here today, Diana.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you both for your time. Again, your contribution to our business community and sharing the information. Again, our webinar series are available to all businesses at no cost. You can find more information on to review this and see this webinar again and our other library resources on our website at issaquahchamber.com. Again, thank you, Perry and Jen, for your time.